Hey everyone, it's Jason. Welcome to another Marvel Champions of the card game unboxing. This is for the Sinister Motives campaign expansion. So as you can see on here, we're going to get some new heroes, we're going to have some new villains. So this is a Spider-Man themed set. So we're going to get Ghost Spider and Spider-Man Miles Morales. And we're going to get a fight off against various Spider villains. Got Mysterio, Electro, Venom, Sandman, Kraven, Doc Ock, and Venom. So this is, again, a campaign, so it runs through so you can play each different scenario by itself, independent of everything else, or you can run them as, do this, then do the next one, and things will carry over. So I've done a couple other box sets of these so far, which are a really fun way to start off a new series. So the first one, base game, was the Avengers. Then the second one was, There's a Cosmic Encounters, which is Guardians with Rocket and Groot. Then they had the Man Titan, which had Avenger Guardian mix. And now we're stepping into the third one, which is essentially the Spider-Verse, but we're adding the Web Warriors and Champions. It's a combination of both of those. We've already had some champion characters, so now we're adding a few more. And then the following hero packs that will come after this will kind of be a little bit of each of those. So, of course, we have villain cards. We have 2 identity cards. Bunch of the different keywords. And if you haven't seen one of my campaign videos, these are going to be a little bit longer than a hero pack because there's 2 heroes plus a bunch of villains. So just, expect for the long run. So we have Hinder X. Hinder X revealed, place X threat on the card. Incite X, place X threat on the main scheme. Patrol, means patrol are engaged with a player. Player cannot thwart the main scheme. They have to take care of that guy first. Permanent are cards that stay in play. Lots of times those are cards from setup. We have Piercing. Keyword, discard any toughness cards before dealing damage. We have Requirement Resources, so you have to pay a specific resource cost. Setup, beginning of the game stuff. Stalwart. Character Stalwart cannot be stunned or confused. A steady character, so kind of a little bit lesser version, is they require 2 status cards. So either 2 stuns or 2 confused to be stunned or confused. And then once they resolve that, both of them go away. So if you have steady, you have to take 2. If you have Stalwart, you just don't take any. We have Team Up. So it's been featured a bunch of times since the first Guardian set. It is essentially a card you have to have 2 different characters in play to be able to use them. Villainous. A minion of Villainous activates, giving a boost card on the top of the encounter deck. When you resolve that minion's turn, whip the boost up, apply the icons. If it has a boost ability, resolve its effect. So it's essentially like you have your regular villain, which is your main guy you're trying to beat, and then you have your minions, which can be anybody. So now they started making some minions villainous. So essentially they're like the mid-tier. So that way you can have guys like Doc Ock be a minion, but he still poses a bigger threat than, let's say, a Hydra Trooper. And then a Victory X. When a card of the Victory X is defeated, place in a Victory power instead of its owner's discard pile. And that'll give you points for the end of the game. Then there's also the Amplify icon. With a boost card to space up during enemy's activation phase, play 1 additional boost during each of them plays. Alright, so that's our bunch of keywords. So there are going to be spoilers, clearly, so I'm going through all the cards. So there's going to be spoilers for the, what's in the set, who the story is. I'm going to kind of show off each campaign page, and then go through each deck, so we'll kind of reveal them as we go along. But there are some extra special things in here. There's campaign mode, which is just saying certain things here. There are prohibited cards, certain cards that we're not going to use. Special campaign cards, which you can only use in certain events. This set also adds a reputation track, so you do certain things during the campaign, you're going to earn a reputation track. So each campaign set that's come out has added some little twist to the campaign, which one hand, I find it's kind of neat. On the other hand, it's kind of annoying. Reasons are having different extra things to get to do during a campaign, so that not everyone, besides the encounters and stuff, so everyone doesn't always feel the same, is actually kind of fun. Like the Guardian set, Cosmic Threats, or Cosmic, I can't remember what the heck the name of it is. But that one had a marketplace. So, like, as you did stuff, you had to buy stuff for your marketplace. You upgrade your Milano. And then this one has his reputation track. They all had a little twist of different things you can get. And do like that, which is kind of fun. But the problem also means is it also breaks the fact that you can't just you can't mix and match characters in an easy campaign mode, which would have been more fun. Like so, like for example, the first villain you fight here is Sandman. You beat Sandman, certain things happen. It would have, it should have been interesting if, like, I could play that, and then I could take, like Ultron from like the base set, or I could take, Thanos from the Mad Titan set, and you could throw him in there. If you could mix and match characters in a campaign, but you can't do that with these special modes because some of the cards on there aren't going to have them, or the conditions after you beat a guy won't reflect that. So that would have been a little bit cooler if they would have made a way so you can build your own campaigns a little bit easier, as opposed to it just being, I can play 5 villains in a row, but then you have to have a way to like build on each campaign, so you could, like, regardless of who you play as or what set you can mix and match, you could use that marketplace in everyone, or I could use this reputation track in everyone. And you kind of can a little bit, but some of the things they add to it are more specific towards the characters in this set. Anywho, expert campaign, elimination, that's just stuff for that. I'm going to show off this reputation track really quick. So this is basically what this is. As you do certain things, it'll ask you to mark one of these dots on here. And then when you get these yellow ones happen right away, like this one lets you add shield tech cards. This one does a bad thing, forces you to put Osborne tech cards in there. Then some later ones that you flip over your shield cards to the hand side, or they might make you search the encounter deck for a side scheme. And then there's the campaign mode, which lets you keep track of everything throughout the game. And you can print off copies of those. Alright, so then we're going to, before we even get into the villains and that, let's look at our two heroes. Let's look at our heroes first, then we'll jump into the villains. So we're going to start off with good old Gwen Stacy, Ghost Spider. Lots of times known as Spider Gwen, but they're actually giving her actual code name, or her main Marvel code name, because in her universe she was just Spider Woman. But then when she came over and called her Spider Gwen, and now she's actually going by the name Ghost Spider. So you're going to see a brand new keyword. She's a web warrior. So that's our new classification. Hand size of 5, hit points of 10. 1 thwart, 2 attack, 3 defense. So she's all about defending. Alright, so she has dizzying reflexes. So she has response. After resolve an interrupt or responsibility on an event, ready Ghost Spider, limit once per phase. So I'm fighting a monster. Not the worst way for a teenage girl to spend her Friday evenings. So she's going to use a lot of interrupt and response cards. So she wants to deal with things as they're coming. And here we have just Gwen Stacy, civilian, in her band. 3 recovery. Action. Choose to either shuffle Ticket to the Multiverse from your discard pile into your deck, or ready George Stacy. So she can get her Ticket to the Multiverse card back, or she can prep George Stacy, and we'll see what those two do when we get to them. So her first cards is we're going to get 3 copies of Ghost Kick. 2 cost event. Attack. Hero response. After Ghost Spider Uses a basic power, deals 6 damage to an enemy. Max 1 per basic power used. I thought you'd at least try to put up a fight. So here she gets her, so again, so she uses her, says hero response attack. After she uses a basic power, deals 6 damage to an enemy. So it basically is you do a regular attack for 2, and then you can play this as a response to that to do an extra 6 damage. And then it says, when you play interrupt the responsibility, ready Ghost Spider. So she gets to attack, does up to her 2 damage, does an additional 6 damage with this card if you pay for it. Then you get to ready her and have her ready to defend or attack again. So that's just, yeah, she's going to be bouncing back and forth a bunch. We got 1 copy of Parental Guidance, which is an event. Alter Ego Action. If George Stacy is in play, attach 1 event from your hand or discard pile face down to George Stacy. If George Stacy is not in play, search your deck and discard pile for him and add it to your hand. So basically you can play cards on him. And then there's going to be something that'll let you use them. I'm assuming? Catch 1 event. Yeah. Alright, so then we have 3 copies of Phantom Flip. 2 cost event for thwart with another hero response for thwarting. After Ghost Spider uses a basic power, remove 5 threats from a scheme. So again, she can do her thwart, which is only 1, but she can then pay for this, you'll get 5 more off, and ready herself. Life is most in focus when the world is upside down. She's got 2 copies of Pirouette and Punch. Skill, Hero Interrupt. When a card is revealed from the encounter deck, deal damage to the villain equal to 1 more than the number of boost icons on the card. Cancel that card's when revealed effect. That canceling the when revealed effect is probably 1,000 times more better than dealing the damage. The damage is kind of a bonus, but it's also an interrupt. So when a card's revealed, play this as interrupt it. Get your 2, but you can also ready your Ghost Spider. So if you did something earlier, you can again chain these cards together, which is really fun. 2 copies of Web Binding. Superpower requirement. You have to require a Genius or Science card. It's a little bit harder to play then, but it's another interrupt. When an enemy would activate, cancel that activation. If a minion's activation was canceled this way, deal 4 damage to that minion. So she has 1 card that does extra attack, 1 that does extra thwart, 1 that prevents an encounter from basically happening, and 1 that stops a minion's activation. She's all about, like, stopping them, and then she can keep bouncing back after she plays these because they're all interrupting her responses, and be ready to play another card, or do another attack, or another defense. So that's definitely awesome. Alright, so then, now we're going to review this. She says, choose to either shuffle Ticket to the Multiverse from your discard pile to your hand, or ready George Stacy. And that other cards put cards on George Stacy. So it says, George Stacy is a persona, so he's not an ally. So he has no health on him, so he's not going to be easily eliminated. Events attached to George Stacy may be played as if they were in your hand. Action, exhaust George Stacy. Attach 1 event from your hand face down here to a maximum of 3. So essentially, between that and the other card, you can put cards on him, and then you gain up to an extra 3 hands worth of cards, which is really great with all these extra responses and interrupts, because you can have them sitting there ready to go. And then it's like, oh, look, I'm ready to go. And then if you also have other cards in your hand, or you can use those cards, because they're considered to be in your hand, to pay for resources. So it works really well to get extra things out. The other card referenced was Ticket to the Multiverse. An item, upgrade 3 costs, so our highest cost card. Remove Ticket to the Multiverse from the game. discard your hand, shuffle your discard pile into your deck, draw your hand size, and ready each Ghost Spider card you control. Basically, resetting everything to your advantage. So discard your hand, shuffle your discard into your deck. So if your deck is getting low, you can basically just reshuffle everything, restart back over fresh. But you have to remove this from the game. But then you might be wondering, well, why does this say shuffle, pick it from multiple from your discard pile into your deck? So if you're not ready to go, let's say you draw this on turn 2. Like, I'm not going to reset my hand and my everything this early in the game. Use it as a wild card. You know, you pay for it. It's a double wild here. You pay for that. And that's sitting in your discard pile. Then you can use that if you're on your hero action recovery and you have nothing else to do that turn. Shuffle it back into your deck. Then it's either it's ready to go to draw again to do that, or you get it early on again. Use it as another double wild. So that's definitely an interesting card. It's supposed to show the fact that she's one of the few spider heroes that can travel back and forth fairly frequently between her universe and an alternate universe. And then finally, we have 2 copies of Web Bracelets. Item Tech. Hero Response. After resolving Interrupt or Responsibility, which almost all her cards are, exhaust Web Bracelets to draw 1 card. You can have 2 of them, so you have 1 for each arm. If you have both of them out, every time you're doing that, you can exhaust one of them to draw an extra card. Plus, then you can also turn around and ready Spider or Ghost Spider to keep doing more stuff. Alright, so now we're going to look at her protection cards. She's all about defense. Of course, she's going to get protection. So we're going to get some more Web Warriors. She has Silk, Cindy Moon, Ally, 2 cost, 1 thwart, 1 attack, 2 health, Response. After you play Silk from your hand, if you control another Web Warrior card, which you would in this set because you'd have Ghost Spider, search the encounter deck for a Treachery and discard it. Shuffle. Maybe I'm getting the hang of this superhero stuff. Yeah, you know, just get rid of a Treachery card you don't want to deal with, and yet search the entire deck, not search the top 2 cards or reveal the top 5 and see what you have. You know, it's nope, just find one you don't want to deal with and get rid of it. And then we have Spider-Man, Miles Morales. 4 cost, 3 health, 1 thwart, 2 attack, also a Web Warrior. Response. After you play Spider-Man from your hand, stun and confuse an enemy you control with at least 3 Web Warrior cards. So this one, you really need Web Warrior cards out to make him useful. To be able to stun and confuse an enemy. And we're going to get more of those as we go along. Like I said, there's a couple in this set, and then the next couple of hero packs will also have some more. Also going to note that you can have this Spider-Man out and Peter Parker Spider-Man out and any other card named Spider-Man because they have an ally name that's different. Now, also with that note is we do have the other playable character is Spider-Man. He's also Miles Morales, so you cannot have this card out and that Spider-Man. So if you're playing both decks, both Ghost Spider and Spider-Man from this set, the Ghost Spider character cannot play this card unless they adjusted that rule at some point. So basically, this is just worth a genius or one resource for you. It's not worth it because you already have that named characters out on the table. But, you know, it still makes sense to include it here because you could include this in a different deck. You could include this protection stuff with that Miles card and just use it as a resource. Alright, so we have a third ally. We have Spider UK, Billy Baddock. 3 cost ally, 5 health. 1 thwart, 2 attack. Interrupt. When Spider UK defends against an attack, deal damage to the attacking enemy equal to the number of Web Warrior cards you control. And I love the fact that they say cards, not allies. So it's any card that says Web Warrior on it. So if we get other cards that are, if they release other cards that are not, they kind of like the shield cards, where you can get shield cards, the shield helicarrier, and stuff like that. Or the Avengers might have Quinjet. I'm not sure if that's listed as an Avenger card. Or locations that are like Asgard locations. You can get stuff like that that would also benefit this. So right now this might not be as useful, but as more cards come out, it will definitely get better. Alright, so we have 3 new copies of Bait and Switch. 1 cost event for hero action. The villain attacks you, remove 4 threat from the main steam. So you're going to take that damage, but you're going to get 4 threat removed. Again, you can prep this. Like, even if she gets attacked, she has 3 defense. She can plan for it. She can be readied. She can go ahead and anticipate that's coming using her other abilities, and be ready for it. Then we have 3 copies of Jump Flip. 1 cost event, defense. Hero Interrupts. We got another Hero Interrupt. But this one's for defense. When you would take any amount of damage, prevent 2 of that damage. If you paid for this card using an energy resource, remove 2 threat from the main steam. Up high, down low. Aw, too slow. So this one works really well with Ghost Spider, because again, she can defend with her 3 defense, which is really good. Prevent 2 of that damage, ready herself, and she'll be able to take dodge another attack, plus potential to remove 2 threat. 3 copies of Return the Favor, 0 cost event. Attack, hero action. Discard cards from the top of the encounter deck until you discard a Treachery. Reveal that Treachery, deal 5 damage to the villain. Good, bad kind of thing. Dealing 5 damage is great. Getting rid of a Treachery is great. But you're also potentially getting rid of a lot of cards off that deck, and once that deck runs out, then it accelerates and it goes faster. So kind of like early in the game, probably not that big of a deal, especially for 0 cost. Late in the game, you gotta debate whether the 5 damage is worth it, especially because it's only to the villain, it's not to any enemy. So 5 damage isn't gonna really help you a ton. It might not be worth it. And then we have 3 copies of What Doesn't Kill Me. Requirement Strength. It's a 2 cost event. Hero action, heal 2 damage from your hero and ready your hero. This is actually a great one to prep for defense as well. You took some damage, prep, get ready for the next one. Alright, so that's all of our protection. Now we're going to look at some basics. We got another Spider-Man. Hobby Brown, or Punk Spider-Man, or Spider-Punk, depending on how you want to call it. Another Web Warrior. Control only if you control a Web Warrior card. So currently that'd be just these 2 characters, but again, there's more coming out. As of this video, the only other main one they've announced is Spider-Ham. Because the next 2 characters that come out after are Nova and Ironheart, which are both champions. But it just says a Web Warrior card, so it can be any of the allies, which are allies in the protection deck there. So you can even include this with just those. You don't have to have one of your main characters be it, but that just makes it harder to get out, so you have to make sure you have one of those other cards. But still, it's awesome you can do that. So Hobby Brown here has 3 attack, 2 thwart, 1 attack. Interrupt. When a Spider-Man leaves play, discard the top 3 cards of the encounter deck. Deal damage to the villain equal to the number of boost icons discarded this way. So actually I can do a bunch of damage, get rid of some encounters, but also, weakens what comes out. Alright. We have 1 copy of Across the Spider-Verse. Max 1 per deck. Hero action. Exhaust a Web Warrior card you control. Search your deck, or search your discard pile for a Web Warrior ally. Put it into play. Then choose a player. That player may spend 3 resources of any type to repeat this ability. So that's really fun. if you have multiple spider people with Web Warrior cards, each player can keep doing this effect. So right now, if you're playing Ghost Spider and Miles Morales Spider-Man, like Ghost Spider could play this card. Then Miles could go ahead and do it too if he needs to. So you can get 2 allies out for the price of 1. Now, Ghost Spider's playing with just the original Spider-Man or, Hulk or whoever. They wouldn't have access unless they included some of these other cards. They could include this basic card, or they could include the green protection. So yeah, you could mix and match other characters. Just, again, definitely interesting. Alright, then we have Young Love, which is one of our team-up cards. Requires Gwen Stacy and Miles Morales. Alter Ego action. Heal 3 damage from Gwen Stacy and Miles Morales. So this you have to have a copy of each. So again, you could have this Gwen Stacy and the green protection Miles Morales out at the same time. So you could have both of those two out, or you could have the 2 main identity cards out. So like I could have 2 cards out, or I could have one. My opponent could have another. It's however it works out. As long as there's 2 in play is all that matters between you and any of your other teammates. Alright, so we got Energy, Genius, Strength. We have the Web of Life and Destiny. So here's a location with Web Warriors. This is a good card to have out. They'll stay in play longer than an ally. It gives you that Web Warrior keyword. 3 cost support. Ignore this card's resource cost if your identity has the Web Warrior trait. So it's free. Response. After a Web Warrior ally leaves play, choose a player. That player draws a card. So that's helpful too. Just, that fun little extra ability. Then our final basic card is we have 3 copies of Plan B, which is Spider-Man. Tactic. Play under any player's control, max 1 per player. Hero action. Exhaust Plan B and discard 1 random card from your hand to deal 2 damage to an enemy. Yeah. Just discard a random card, 2 damage. It's not the best idea, but that's why it's a Plan B. It's your gamble. Hey, I really need to do something. I can take this guy out. It's going to cost me something I don't need. But you can also mitigate that too by if you play a bunch of cards and you're down to like 1 or 2 cards, and you know what you're going to have to get rid of. Also with Spider-Gwen, because if you have George Stacy out, you could have 3 cards on George Stacy that are effectively part of your hand, but they're not actually in your hand. So if you got rid of all but 1 other card in your hand, you could play this, know which card you're discarding. I got just 1 card left, I'm going to discard that, because you could have been paying for resources off of the George Stacy card, or use the other ones to pay for each other, and then you still have the George Stacy cards ready to be used if you need them. So that's definitely interesting. Alright, then her obligation. Worried Father. Give to the Gwen Stacy player. Search your deck, hand, and discard pile player for George Stacy and set him aside. Attach his obligation to him. Alter Ego action. Exhaust Gwen Stacy and remove the obligation from the game. Add George Stacy to your hand. So this is I love when these obligations are not, like, lots of the original ones were essentially, either flip your alter ego, so basically use an attack for the turn, or, and exhaust him so you can't do anything for a turn, or it was, do this other thing, like discard it, so it would keep coming back. So you could exile it, by basically losing a turn, or you could just exhaust your character or whatever, or flip your alter ego, and lose part of a little bit of a turn, to have to deal with it later. Which is fine. It did what it needed to do. It hindered you for a turn one way or the other. I love these ones though, where it's a different way to do it. So this is you're putting this on George Stacy, so it's like, oh, you put you set him aside and you attack him. So now he can't be used. He's out of play. You can't use your George Stacy. He's a very powerful card in this deck. Until you remove this. And you just have to exhaust this. It's like, can I afford to flip to my alter ego, spend a turn to get rid of that so I can have him ready to go? Or can I, how many turns can I go without having to worry about having him in play? Just kind of a neat idea. I like it. Alright, then we have our Nemesis. So this is also a really fun Nemesis. So our Nemesis is actually the Lizard. So he's a minion, Steam 1, attack 3, 5 health, brute creature, force interrupt. When the villain phase begins, heal 1 damage from the Lizard. This is a Ghost Spider Nemesis. What makes this Lizard interesting is this is from Gwen Stacy's universe, where the Lizard is actually Peter Parker. Peter Parker researching the healing properties of the Lizard DNA has backfired, turning him into all those who come in contact with the serum into reptilian monstrosities. Force interrupt. When a villain phase begins, heals 1 damage from each enemy. Yeah, so you definitely want to take this out fast, because everyone healing 1 health every turn is not going to be good. Especially when combined with the Lizard is going to also heal an extra 1 every turn. 1 copy of Experimental Injection. Attachment. Attach to the minion with the most remaining hit points. If you cannot, this card gains Surge. Attach to the minion, gains Creature trait, and gets 4 extra hit points. And then 2 copies of In Cold Blood. When revealed, the Lizard attacks you cannot play events until after the attack resolves. If no attack was made this way, this card gains Surge. So yeah, definitely not something you want to deal with. So that was Ghost Spider. Yeah, all about bouncing around like a spider would. Hitting back and forth, coming back, getting back in the game. Definitely different than kind of how Spider-Man plays. Well, you know, we'll see how the other Spider-Man plays. So here we have Spider-Man Champion, Web Warrior, so he hits both of those decks, which are really fun. 2 thwart, 2 attack, 2 defense, so he's straight down the middle. Venom Blast, special, deal 2 damage to an enemy, stun that enemy. Or Spider Camouflage, special, give Spider-Man a tough status card and confuse an enemy. So he just uses 2 special abilities that Peter Parker doesn't have. And if we flip him over, Miles Morales is a 4 recovery, which is really good. Civilian response. After you change into this form, shuffle 1 Spider-Man card from your discard pile into your deck. Once you leaped off skyscrapers and fought bad guys, everything else is a chore. He only has 9 hit points. So he's a little bit less than some of the other characters. But he's got some fun special abilities to use. But I might be like, well, I can just keep doing this all the time. No. He has special abilities. There's no requirement to pay for them because there's special cards that activate them. I am almost positive that's how he works. So here we have 2 copies of Arachnomatics. 1 cost event. Hero action. Deal 2 damage to an enemy. If that enemy has a stun status card, deal 3 additional damage. If it has a confused status card, deal 2 additional damage to it. So that's where his things are. One's going to deal 2 damage to stun. One's going to give him tough and confused. So he's going to have a lot of stuff that revolves him stunning and confusing. Now this is fun here because it's a 1 cost to deal 2 damage. If they're stunned, that's 3 additional. That's 5 damage for 1 cost. If they're confused, it's 5 damage. If they're both, that's 8 damage for cost of 1. So that's incredible. We have 2 copies of Double Life, max 1 per round. Action, change your form. If you paid for this card using a strength resource, ready your identity. I didn't ask for this power, this responsibility, but I won't let it go to waste. So that lets him flip over as much as he needs to. which is also helpful because you can flip to this side, change, shuffle your Spider-Man card in your deck, get one of your cards back, then you could use this you wanted to change back to ready him again. We have 2 copies of Swing In. Hero Action Thwart. Remove 4 threat from a scheme. If you pay for this card using a genius resource, resolve Spider-Man's camouflage ability. I can see that you're not happy to see me, or not see me. So that's why you just swing in, you do remove 4 threat, but if you pay for it with a special resource, specific resource, you get to also confuse an enemy and gain a tough status card, which helps set up for some powerful stuff. He's got 3 copies of Web Shot. Attack, deal 4 damage to an enemy. If you paid for this card using an energy, resolve Venom Blast. If that doesn't hold you, I know something that will. So it's kind of like he gets his does a regular Web Shot, just does 4 damage. But if he charges it with electricity, it becomes a Venom Blast, does 2 damage and stuns them. The same thing with Swing In. If he just does it normally, he gets to remove some threat. He can swing in, rescue someone. But if you pay for his genius, he gets to be tough a little bit, because they're kind of like in hiding, so he gets extra defense. And he gets to confuse an enemy because they can't see what happened. So it's kind of a fun little gimmick on how that all works. He's going to get a Persona support. Gank Lee. Exhaust him to draw 1 card. If you're in hero form, choose and discard 1 card from your hand. So if you're in Miles, yeah, you just get a free card. If you're not, you at least get the card, but you can choose to discard someone else. I'm the man in the chair. So yeah, that's kind of fun too. A little extra bonus. He also gets another persona, Jefferson Davis, which is a persona and shield. Alter Ego Action, exhaust Jefferson Davis. Remove 1 threat from a scheme with the least threat. I'm not proud of my past, but I don't regret it either. It brought me to where I am today. So that's also a fun thing. He gets, extra threat every turn. Nothing wrong with that, as long as you're an alter ego. One copy of the upgrade Power Within, which is a superpower response. After your hero uses a basic power, discard Power Within to resolve his Venom Blast ability. So you can use your regular, attack or thwart or defense. You can discard this to do that extra 2 damage and stun the enemy. And then we're going to get the opposite one, which is Defense Mechanism, 1 copy. After you use a basic power, resolve Spider-Man's camouflage. So he's got multiple different ways to use his special abilities. And then he's got 2 copies of Web Shooter to kind of mimic Ghost Spider having the web bracelets. Item attack uses 3 web counters. Anchors play 3 counters, and these are gone. Discard it. Exhaust web counters to remove exhaust web shooters and remove 1 counter to generate 1 wild resource, which will help pay for those special costs. So you can basically charge up his web shots or his swinging. Very easy. Since you have 2 of them, 1 for each wrist, which makes thematical sense. Alright, up next we have Justice cards. So this is actually fun because he's a web warrior and a champion, but he doesn't have aspect decks that deal with web warriors or champions. He deals with shield agents, which actually is a really fun thing to do too. Now, which makes me also want to have a Nick Fury deck at some point. So you have Monica Chang, Fort 1, Attack 1, 2 health. Response: after Monica Chang enters play, search your deck in hand and discard pile for a copy of Surveillance Team support card and put it into play. Place 1 Snoop counter in each surveillance team you control. So she's going to boost up this one. I'm going to jump right to that card. It's the last card in this set. So we have 2 copies of that. Surveillance Team uses 3 Snoop counters, enters 3 counters and remove the gun. Action. Exhaust surveillance team and remove 1 snoop counter from it. Remove 1 threat from his scheme. So you only get 2 copies in this set, and that's because any cards that have already been used in other sets, they only give you up to 2. They only give you like 2 copies. They won't give you 3 unless it's a brand new card. But that's still fun because you can always, if you have this from another set, you could add another one in here if you wanted to. Yeah, if you don't have one in play, or if you have one in play already, you get to play it for free with Monica, and then you get to add a 4th counter to it, which is actually kind of fun. Or add one if you've already used it. Yeah, so that's definitely cool. She does get Miles does get a Web Warrior ally, Shield ally as well, in Spider-Woman, Jessica Drew. She does double duty there. Reduce the cost to play Spider-Woman by 1 for each confused enemy in play. So yeah, she can come out fairly cheap if things work out right. You're the A-Team, really? How far down the list do you think they were when they settled on you guys? We have 3 copies of Homeland Intervention, a 0-cost event. Shield Tactic. Exhaust up to 3 shield cards you control and choose a scheme. Remove 2 threat from that scheme for each card exhausted this way. So up to 6. And there's a lot of shield cards out there in this set, and in other sets you can mix and match. Now this is jurisdiction of the Strategic, Homeland Intervention, Enforcement, and Logistics Division. So that's definitely fun. So speaking of logistics, we have 3 copies of Global Logistics, another 0-cost event, and Shield Tactic. Exhaust 1 shield card you control. Look at the top 4 cards of the player deck or encounter deck. Discard any number of those and put the others on the top or bottom of that deck in any order. Deck stacking is really fun. Do you need to get your web shot out or your swinging? Like, are you looking for attack? Are you looking for? Do you need to find, a basic resource like genius or strength? Are you worried about what's on the enemy's thing? Oh, I need to make sure there's not a high-cost enemy coming at me next because I only have 3 life and I need an extra turn. Yeah, so that's definitely an interesting thing to do. Or maybe you could, like, hey, I can deal with an enemy getting an attachment versus it gaining surge. Or I can't deal with surge, so I'm going to put this equipment on the bottom because there's no enemies out, you know. Yeah, definitely fun to be able to play around with that. And it's also exhaust 1 shield card. So you can exhaust other shield cards, or you can exhaust this shield card. Then we have 3 copies of Field Agent, which is a support persona, so they're not an ally. Uses 3 backup counters. Hero Interrupt. When a shield ally would take any amount of consequential damage, exhaust Field Agent and remove 1 backup counter from it to prevent 1 of that damage. So our consequential damage would be Monica Change. She has 2, so that helps her survive. Otherwise, she can normally only take 2 hits. Or same thing with Jessica Drew here. Spider-Woman. She can attack more because she could, easily prevent some of those from happening. With Field Agent. Any amount of damage, you can exhaust him and remove 1 to prevent 1 of that damage. So you can only do it once, and it's going to take 3 times. But that's alright. Alright, up next we have some basic cards. We have Agent 13, we have Sharon Carter. So she has a 2 thwart and a 1 attack with asterisks. She's a shield spy. It says response. After Agent 13 attacks or thwarts, choose a shield support and ready that support. So working really well with this deck because we have support and Field Agent. We have support and surveillance team. So I'll ready both of those 2 and have them prepped. So get them ready to use. So she can attack, and plus, since she takes 1 damage for each, she can do them a couple of times. I bear the scars of the past over me, but there's more to me than that. I am better, stronger, wiser. Alright, so we also get Dum Dum Dudgeon. 5 cost, 5 health, But he has 3 thwart with 3 consequential damage, 3 attack with 2 consequential damage, just a shield trait. Interrupt. When you use one of Dum Gun's basic powers, you may exhaust up to 3 shield agent cards. 3 shield cards you control. For each card exhausted this way, Dum Dum Duggan gets +1 to that power for this use. Yeah, so you can make him up to potentially 6 thwart, 6 attack. He's only going to be able to do that a few times, especially if you're exhausting a bunch of stuff. But it's a great way to use your other cards you have sitting there that you don't need, or you don't need to attack with other guys. Fun way to get around all that. So we have a few more cards for the basic. We have Ghost Spider. So she's a basic, which is really fun. I mean, she can be including everything. I don't know why they didn't put Miles in basic as well, so that he could have been used wherever in any deck as well, versus just sticking in there. But maybe he's going to be basic in a different set. Maybe that's what their thought was. But it's still fun. So we have Ghost Spider, Gwen Stacy, Web Warrior. If you control any Web Warrior card, interrupt. When Ghost Spider leaves play, search your deck for an identity-specific card and add it to your hand. She's going to let you recycle them cards quickly. This is definitely one, if it wasn't for that Web Warrior aspect in there, having a control one, I could see people putting this in every deck. We are also going to get Spider-Man Peter Parker, who can now be put into any deck. So this is actually really fun. I love that he's not specific just to the Web Warrior cards. 2 thwart, 2 attack, 3 health. Requirement: you have to pay 1 of each type for paying for him. So he's hard to get out because he's Spider-Man. But after Spider-Man attacks or thwarts, choose another Web Warrior character, ready that character. See Miles, that's how you do it. So you could potentially put him in any deck, but he's kind of wasted if he's not in a Web Warrior deck. But being able to ready any character is definitely worth it. Then we also get another copy of Young Love, which you saw a Spider-Gwen set, because it works whenever they have these 2 characters, you have 1 in each deck. Energy, Genius, Strength. Then our last couple of cards, we have 3 copies of Government Liaison, which is another support, which we work with Agent 13. Shield Persona, Hero Action, Exhaust Government Liaison. Play a shield card from your hand, reducing its cost by 1. Definitely getting cheaper cards are helpful. And here's a good card to use it with. 1 copy of Sky Destroyer. Shield Vehicle. Response: after you play a shield card, exhaust Sky Destroyer, deal 2 damage to an enemy. It's not often we play Sky Destroyer, but when we do, it's the situation is about to get serious. Yeah, play a shield card, exhaust it to deal 2 damage. You get this out right away with all the other shield cards. Boom. So that is that. Alright, then we have his obligation. Keeping secrets. Give them out. You may flip your alter ego. Choose exhaust Miles to remove this from the game, or discard Gank Lee and Jefferson Davis from play. If neither was discarded this way, this card gains Surge. Discard its obligation. So it's kind of meets in the middle, like I said, Spider-Gwen. Ghost Spider. I like this a little bit different. So yeah, it has the exhaust Miles to remove it from the game. So you can just exhaust them, basically losing an entire turn. Flipping over and not be able to do anything that way with your main character. But you don't have to deal with this anymore. Or you can discard those 2 cards if you have them. Just like, hey, I can get rid of these 2 cards. It's going to set me back, but at least I still get my turn. Problem is, this one's a little bit harder to hit because you have to have both of them. So all it says, discard both of them. If neither was discarded this way, it gains a Surge. As long as you can discard 1, I think then it's not surged, but you have to discard both to be able to discard the obligation. So it's kind of a thing. If you only discard 1, you can avoid that surge. If you can discard both, you can get rid of it, but it's gonna come back. It's just kind of the downside of those. Alright, then we have our Nemesis. So we're going to look at that. We have Prowler. So we have Stalwart. He has 5 health, 2 steam, or 1 steam, 2 attack. He's a criminal. When revealed, if you're in alter ego form, give Prowler a tough status card. I'll give you a piece of advice. Don't let me find you. So now there was the original Prowler, which I want to say his name was, I thought it was Hobby Brown, which is the same as Spider-Punk, which is kind of fun. A little trivia there. But I believe this one is not that version. This is the newer version, which is Miles' uncle, if I'm right. I could be wrong on this. Prowler's on the tracking prey. Prowler's on the hunt and won't stop till he corners his prey. When revealed, if you're in alter ego form, place 1 acceleration token here. Yeah, we don't need more acceleration tokens. Then we're going to get 1 copy of Razor Claws. This is a attachment weapon. Attached to the minion with the highest printed hit points. If you cannot, gain Surge. Attached minion gains Piercing, so he's going to get rid of tough status cards. And he gains 2 attack. And then we're going to get 2 copies of Slice and Dice. When revealed, power attacks the player with the fewest remaining hit points, even if that player is in alter ego form. The attack defeats a character, or no attack was made this way, gains Surge. So that's actually pretty mean. He's going to try and take out whoever he can. Alright. And that was our Spider-Man. I don't mind calling him Spider-Man, I just almost wish they would have given him a different name. But I don't know what you would call him. You don't really want to call him, like, Spider-Black or something like that. And all the other close ones, like Scarlet Spider, and some of them have already been taken. Even if they just would have called him Ultimate Spider-Man, but I guess in universe that would sound really weird. That's alright. Yeah, so I'd say he has enough interesting abilities with his camouflage and all that. His rest of his deck is kind of weird because he jumps from his abilities to like straight up just shield stuff. Like none of the other stuff support his stunning and camouflage, which I think would have been more interesting. Like kind of like Ghost Spider had stuff that does interrupt response. You share a couple of cards that kind of work with that. Or, like, recently I just went through the Valkyrie set. Her aggression deck had stuff that, like, helped bring out minions and stuff, which is what she wants to fight. So his shield aspect stuff is really cool to have shield aspect. I think it would have been better if that would have been in, like, again, like a Nick Fury deck, or even if you would have made, like, maybe in, like, someone like Falcon deck who's been part of S.H.I.E.L.D. at times, or a Spider-Woman, or someone like that who has actually had a S.H.I.E.L.D. keyword. I think it would have worked better. It's still a fun concept, I get it, but that's what it is. But yeah, it'll like definitely help with other things, or it might make you want to just definitely take this Spider-Man and mix it with other decks right away. They might have something that might work better for him. Alright, so there we have Sinister Motives. That is just the hero decks. This is part 1. We'll check out part 2 and we'll go over all the villains so that this isn't a 4-hour long video. See you guys later. Bye.